Alex Smith of the Mothership, quarterback for 16 years and a Heisman Trophy finalist back in '04 when he was at Utah. Good to see you again. I was wondering about this. I mentioned Jalen Hurts. He's had a different offensive coordinator every single year in the NFL, every single year in college. As a former quarterback, do you care more about who's your head coach or who's your offensive coordinator?
Well, Dan, it's the best when they're the same thing, they're the same person most of the time, Usually when an offensive coordinator is good enough to become a head coach, they're pretty good at what they do. I feel his pain. I had 7 offensive coordinators in my first 7 years.
Wow.
And to see what Jalen's done, in spite of all that volatility is incredible, right? Like, I think at some point it becomes a strength, Dan, right? Like, there's not a system you haven't run. There's not an offensive mind you haven't been around. You get really good at adapting. You get really good at taking kind of the strengths of all these people and systems, and combining them. But no question, it's not what you want, right? Like, to get to high level football, I mean, this is not the recipe for that. So I think that obviously Nick has been there. Again, he is an offensive head coach. I think it's the same system despite different play callers these last several years. But nonetheless, obviously, especially the Eagles, as good as they've been, as good as that roster is, need far more stability on that side of the ball.
But the terminology is probably kind of the same, no matter who your offensive coordinator is?
I think it's all the same there with Nick. No, and I was in a different scenario where, I went from digits to West Coast to all these different systems. I think the nice thing there with obviously Nick at the helm is that by and far, this is the exact same language. It's a different play caller. It's a little different style, obviously putting the plan together every week.
All right, let's look ahead to what Pittsburgh does now, moving forward. Given their history, young defensive coordinators, they bring them in. In today's NFL, is that the wise thing to do for Pittsburgh to follow that track record?
To stay on the defensive side of the ball?
Young defense, they're not going for big ticket items here. It doesn't sound like.
I mean, they've done such a great job. I mean, I think back to even when they hired Mike Tomlin, right? Like, it just, they seem to do, like these interview processes, like, as you can imagine, you bring in a guy for an interview. These are football coaches. They, sometimes are they coming in a suit and tie and trying to, put their best foot forward. So much of this comes from reference checking, right? Your network as an organization, reaching out and finding who's an actual good football coach who can create culture, right? Just because you're a great coordinator doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great coach. Those are very different things. And so how do you identify them? And clearly this organization seems to have that down. I do anticipate that their track record, has been they're going to go young, right? They're going to go for a young coach that they believe in, that they're going to support, that they're going to build with, and that's going to be there for the next 20, 25 years. Yeah. Whether or not that's on the defensive side of the ball, I think remains to be seen.
Do you think that Mike Tomlin had read the room, had the wherewithal to say, I got 2 years left on my contract, I'm stepping down? Or do you think that there was maybe nudging on the Steelers' part?
No, I don't think there's any nudging. I don't think so. I mean, listen, and I know
he would leave with 2 years left on his contract. He's Mike Tomlin.
I know, that's my point. Like, I think in the media, this has been talked about a lot, right? We heard the chants this year. I think behind closed doors, I mean, teams would be lining up to hire him, lining up, right? Like, I mean, this guy's that well respected, and it's just so rare to have done it for 19 years in one place, right? Like, I do wonder. Just being a head coach for 19 years, right, man? These are dog years. It is a lot of pressure. It demands a commitment level, right? Like, you just have to sacrifice so much of your life. Like, clearly, obviously, who knows here for him to step down, right? Like, I think something on that front. I don't think it had anything to do with getting nudged out. Again, I think this guy's one of the most sought after, if not the most sought after guy in the market, and would have been. And there's a lot of demand there, and I think he knew that despite some of these conversations that go on the media side.
Yeah, but the Ravens had no problem announcing they fired John Harbaugh. Similar career, track record, Super Bowl, same thing.
Yeah, similar. I would argue this, right? Like, look at those two rosters this year.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I think you can make an argument one of them overachieved, and the other one from this year, I'm not talking. I'm obviously John Harbaugh's 18 years are incredible, right? Like, potential Hall of Fame head coach. But this year, I think they greatly underachieved, right? That roster, that many All Pros, that many Pro Bowlers. You've got an MVP. I mean, Lamar just came off arguably maybe the greatest season at quarterback ever. And I know he was injured this year and missed some time, but like that you can't be a fan of football and look at that team and say it didn't underachieve, especially the way the division was this year, right? One of the worst divisions in football.
Talking to Alex Smith, ESPN Sunday NFL Countdown. What is it about certain quarterbacks when they get to the postseason? Like there's certain quarterbacks who are great regular season quarterbacks, but then you get to the postseason. So what is that it factor that somebody just plays better when the lights are the brightest?
I mean, I think a lot has to go right in this scenario. Like I'm thinking about Justin Herbert when you said that, and I know he's 0 for 3 in the playoffs, and people are talking about this and that, but like, I mean, he didn't have it. He was overmatched in that game, right? And against the Patriots, and as beat up as the Chargers were, limping into the playoffs. I know they were hoping to be more competitive in that game, but going across the country on the road, like, and we're just going to pin that all on him. I think in some ways, again, when you step back and look at the job he did, like for them to even be in that position, I think was, in some ways remarkable, right? I think that was a positive, but it's the nature of the quarterback position. You know this, right? Like we get in these big moments, these winner take all one game scenarios, right? Quarterbacks, obviously, I think when your team wins and you play well, this is where you become legendary, right? Like this is where that kind of stuff happens. And so what goes into that, right? Like what I think, again, the 10 guys in the huddle, the matchup, the system, right? Like the position you're put in has a huge part of that. But then obviously the guys got to go out there and make the plays. At the same time, I think about Josh Allen, right? Like incredible playoff numbers, just absolutely incredible playoff numbers. But, up until now, it's the guy that can't get it done, right? Like that's the stuff you hear, right?
Yeah.
Like he can't get there. And which is that because of Josh, right? Like that's insane to say when you actually go look at the play. Like there's not much else he could do. And yet we want to pin that on the quarterback. So sometimes I think that kind of narrative is pretty unfair.
How would you defend Josh Allen if you're Denver?
Good luck. It's tough. It's really tough. Listen, I mean, I think, when you look at them from an offensive standpoint and you think about the weapons and who you need to shut down, obviously it's the best run game in football, and a lot of it starts up front with that, right? James Cook obviously had a phenomenal year. Josh is a big part of that run game. From there, you kind of move to their tight ends, right? Like they're pretty dynamic, both those tight ends, Kincaid and Knox. So much of what they do is tied into the run game with play action pass, right? And over the middle. And so how are you going to take those guys away? They don't have big contributors on the outside, right? Like they kind of piece it together on the outside, right? And I know they just lost a couple guys to injury, and so you're going to be piecing it together even more. So it's interesting when you got a guy like Patrick Surtain, right? Like who's he going to go take away? Like they don't necessarily; these aren't feature guys for them that play outside. And then your instinct would be to play some man, right? Certainly because you're not necessarily afraid of some of these matchups I just talked about in coverage. However, I think Josh is kind of the guy that would really deter you from that, right? Like you don't want a lot of backs turned running in coverage with this guy and the ball in his hands, right? He can really make some big plays with his legs. He can really extend plays. It's hard to cover that long. So he's the biggest deterrent against that. And I do think you're going to see a heavy dose. You're going to see them spy him a lot in this game, right? Let's not let him get going again. Think about last year's playoff game against the Denver Broncos on that fourth down. He runs around for 8 seconds and dots the running back in the back of the end zone for that phenomenal play, right? Like I think if you're the Broncos, like we're not letting that happen again, right? We got to have some eyes on him. We got to have some defenders tracking him down.
I know that you're working with a company. We're looking at concussions. I go back to that, 2012 game when you suffered a concussion and then Kaepernick came in.
Yep.
Did you know you were concussed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, immediately, Dan. And it's funny, and we've learned this, like concussions very much are obviously a spectrum now, right? Like I remember everything. I was very present. Like it wasn't one of those things where I was like, you're out. For me, it was a vision deal, and it was a game it was at Candlestick, and
what do you mean
1 o'clock
vision?
For me, 1 o'clock kickoff, and all of a sudden, having trouble with my vision, right? Again, and I say it because it was a incredible day at Candlestick, really sunny, really bright. And for me, having trouble focusing my eyes, having trouble with my vision, certainly having trouble with the brightness. And I remember it's one of those things where you're you're trying to blink it off, right? You're trying to like work through it, and it's not working, right? Like it's not getting better. And in that game specifically, I remember I continued to play. In fact, I threw a touchdown pass as my last play, I think, and finally got to the sideline and it was like a miracle. I remember thinking like, I don't know how that just happened, right? Like this, I kept thinking it would get better and it didn't. And finally, obviously getting out, um, getting myself out of the game in the sense that I wasn't going to help us out there, not being able to see. And so it's scary. It's scary stuff, right? I think it's for all football players. It's kind of the looming scary thing, right? And like we're learning more. We don't know a whole lot about concussions.
What's
right?
what's the company you're working?
Yeah, I'm with Oxia Biopharma, OXEIA. And listen, I think that the number one thing for all of us is that there are no approved treatments, Dan, right? Like there are no approved tests for concussions. Like when it comes to treatment of concussions, it's the same as it was 20, 40, 50, 100 years ago, right? Like we're still kind of in the Stone Age. It's just, hey, rest up. How do you feel? And again, still learning the consequences of some of these things. And so just pumped to partner with Oxia and to try to be a solution, right? To try to find some answers, to try to figure this out. And
how often are you tested? Like, do you do a yearly?
Well, there are no tests. I mean, obviously, there's these baseline tests where you can kind of take their cognitive, right? In that sense, they're processing, but they can't definitively define whether or not you've had a concussion. Nothing can.
But MRI, CAT scan, none of that will show up. Like
those help, and they certainly help. I think with more severe ones, but the vast majority that happen on the football field, the vast majority I think that happen for people in their lives. Like I can't tell you how many parents come up to me constantly, right? And like, hey, my child had a concussion doing something, and like, what can I do for them, right? Like, what can help? And again, there's just nothing there, right? And the NFL has taken steps. We've seen changes in the kickoff rule, right, to make it safer. We've seen helmets try to get better, but there still is nothing here on the treatment side. And again, I think just pumped to partner with Oxia in the sense that if somebody trying to do something, right, someone finally trying to change that narrative, and for anybody that wants to go learn more, go to oxiabiopharma.com. Company again, I think that is onto something, but really trying to make a difference.
Are you on record as saying the Rams could put up 50 on the Bears?
Listen, Kay got me on and it was like, hey, first thing, that is going to be a high scoring game. I haven't checked the weather. All right, that's always like a part of this when you're playing at Chicago in January. But I'm just that defense, Chicago's defense, the way they're playing. I know they've feasted on turnovers all year, but especially against this system, like they just went to San Francisco, played the Niners, and I think they got 48 put up on them. It's the exact same system, and you could argue, the group they have in LA with the Rams is maybe more dynamic.
Weather's going to be 13 degrees.
All right. Well, listen again. I think it's going to be high scoring, whether or not they actually get the 50 burger, but I think they're going to put up some points. I don't think there's a whole lot of love loss between these coaching staffs either.
Great to talk to you again. Hope you're doing well, and thanks for sharing.
Same, Dan. Thanks for having me. Alex
Smith joining us on the program. I go back to when he was a Heisman Trophy finalist at Utah. That was an incredible run that year, and 16 years in the NFL.